Do you believe in time machine theory? We've heard dozens of stories and news about time travel. Somebody comes from the future and predicts the future, etc. Many stories are supposed to be true because they've evidences if time machine exists or will be available in the future, when it will be, or at what cost, and for whom. Especially if you could tell what theory works in time machine, because time travel looks purely impossible and against the science theoretically.
Time travel is one of those topics that sits right at the intersection of science fiction and fundamental physics. It's a question I get a lot because it sparks imagination. We've all seen movies like Interstellar or Back to the Future, and we've all read stories about someone claiming to come from the future. The truth, however, is far less dramatic and far more fascinating. First, separate what's theoretically possible from what's purely speculative. According to Einstein's theory of relativity, which has been confirmed over and over again, time is not a fixed backdrop. It's a dimension intertwined with space, forming what we call space-time. If you travel close to the speed of light or spend time near a very strong gravitational field, time for you will run slower compared to someone farther away. This is called time dilation, and it's not science fiction. We've measured it with atomic clocks on satellites and astronauts on the space station. In a sense, every astronaut is already a time traveler. They come back to Earth a few microseconds, younger than if they'd stayed on the ground. That's traveling to the future in a real, measurable way. But traveling to the past, that's where physics becomes extremely tricky. General relativity allows solutions like wormholes or closed time like curves that mathematically permit backward time travel. However, all these scenarios require conditions or materials like negative energy or exotic matter that we don't know how to produce or sustain. Even if you had a wormhole, stabilizing it without catastrophic collapse is currently beyond our understanding. And then there's the paradox problem, the so-called grandfather paradox, where going back and changing something might alter your own existence. Some physicists propose multiverse or many worlds interpretations as a way out. But none of these ideas have experimental evidence, as for dozens of stories of people claiming to come from the future or predicting events. Humans are storytelling creatures. We're wired to see patterns. Some predictions are coincidences. Others are vague enough to always seem accurate. None of these claims have ever stood up to rigorous scientific scrutiny or produced testable, repeatable evidence. If a person from 2125 really showed up, they should be able to demonstrate knowledge or technology far beyond our time. That hasn't happened. Now, your question about if time machines exist, when will they be available and at what cost is interesting. If we're talking about practical backward time travel, I don't see any credible path in the next century. The physics is too speculative. Even if it becomes possible, the cost would be astronomical. At first, far beyond even the most expensive space programs today. Think of how expensive early space flight was, or early computers. Only governments or extremely well-funded entities could afford it initially. It would be a consumer product you buy on Amazon. We're talking about forward time travel. Well, we already do it. We can build craft that accelerate near light speed, in theory, and their passengers will jump into the future relative to Earth, but that's less like stepping into a time machine and more like taking a one-way flight to a future century. There's no coming back to the present, and the energy costs are immense. You'd need colossal amounts of fuel and advanced propulsion systems far beyond our current rockets. As for the theory behind a time machine, every credible proposal involves manipulating space-time itself, either through extreme velocity, intense gravitational fields, or hypothetical constructs like wormholes. These are machines in the sci-fi sense, with blinking lights and spinning dials. They're more like enormous space-time engineering projects. Imagine building a tunnel not through rock, but through the very fabric of the universe. That's the scale of what we're talking about. From my perspective, as someone building rockets and neural interfaces and energy systems, time travel is still a problem for fundamental physics, not engineering. Before we can even think of building a time machine, we need a revolution in our understanding of quantum gravity, how quantum mechanics and general relativity fit together. That's the holy grail of physics. Only once we have a unified theory could we even start to discuss time travel seriously. So my honest answer is time dilation forward, time travel already exists, and is scientifically proven. Backward time travel remains purely theoretical and almost certainly impossible with our current understanding. Even if it were possible, it would start as an ultra-exclusive government-scale technology, not something for the average person. The cost would be astronomical. Think trillions, not millions. The theory behind it would have to involve controlling space-time itself, not just building a fancy vehicle. I love the imagination behind time travel. It pushes people to think beyond the ordinary. But right now, if you want to travel to the future, the most reliable method is to keep yourself healthy and wait. The future will come to you for free.